What's going on, guys? It's Red Bull Tanker, and welcome to Operation Chromite. This is historical board gaming's The Korean War. I know it's been a while since I said we were going to start this, but we are slowly beginning to start this game again. I am once again playing with my good buddy, Airsoft Commando. This time around, we are switching sides. I am going to play the Communist forces, while Airsoft Commando plays the Capitalists. The game is pretty much going to go we're going to play just about the same as last time, though I will add here are just a few rules that we are going to experiment with this playthrough. So, one, everyone, each coalition is just going to go out at the same time. It's not really going to be in any sort of so it's going to go the Communists first, then the Allies. And with simultaneous, that will also allow for combined arms attacks, or not combined arms, multinational attacks. Whoa. Hello. I guess we're getting some music. Gosh, that's pretty loud. I think someone accidentally connected to our speaker down here. So simultaneous will allow for multinational attacks. So the North Koreans and Chinese can gather up together and attack a certain post, while also American, South Korean, and UN forces can also gather together and attack as well. Another thing, say, since we're at the beginning of the game, say all of these territories around Seoul were to be captured. That will cause the South Koreans not to be able to build out of Seoul anymore, and they can only focus on Busan. While the same can happen up here in North Korea as well. The Allies could get up here, surround Pyongyang, and then force it to stop purchasing. Again, if North Korea can hold Seoul for 2 consecutive turns, on the third turn, a dice will be rolled, and so on the first turn, they have to roll a 1 in order for China to join. On turn 4, they have to roll a 2, so on and so forth, until China finally joins the game. Factories. So we're still kind of keeping the factories the same. However, the Seoul factory does not get to build an unlimited amount of forces. We realize that is kind of that's something that's kind of just not fair, because since it could still take North Korea 2 turns to get down to Seoul, that basically means the South Koreans could build 20 units on Seoul and thus leave it in a state of siege for almost the entire game. So we are taking that out, and they can only build 4 in Seoul at a turn. And then another rule we're experimenting with is that supplies does not count towards factory numbers. So you can build unlimited amounts of supplies in the factories, and they do not count towards that doesn't matter, because obviously at Pyongyang and Busan you can build unlimited numbers. It's just here in Seoul, supplies does not count towards one of the 4 that can be purchased or can be placed down. And then another thing that we are doing too is that while the South does hold Seoul, they don't have to wait for aircraft. They don't have to wait for mechs, tanks, and aircraft to deploy on the board. They can deploy right away onto the board. But once Seoul falls, then they have to come here and leave their purchases on the build queue for a turn. And then finally, we added one more unit to the game. I meant to do this in the last game, but we didn't get to it. One second, let me flip my notes back so I have it. So we are adding self-propelled artillery. You see here with the U.S., we have an M7 Priest. And the Communist forces will have Katyusha rocket launchers. Basically, so they will cost 5. They can move 2. Attack on a 2 and defend on a 2. They still get the artillery bonus where they could fire into friendly territory or fire into an enemy territory at 2. If they are 1-for-1 paired with a tank, they can blitz. They can be used to blitz and attacks. And they'll be able to support 2 infantry in combat. So whereas regular artillery, it'll 1-for-1 with infantry. So that way, like this artillery covers this infantry and allows this infantry to hit at a 2 or less. With self-propelled artillery, it will be a 2-for-1. So 2 infantry can roll at 2 or less if they are supported by a self-propelled artillery gun. All right, so I think that's it. All right, so now let's actually go into the turn. So we're at the beginning of the game at turn 1. It is June, July 1950. Starting with the North Koreans, as always. I had 28 to spend. I bought 1 mech, 3 tanks, and 6 supplies. Our only quote-unquote combat was I walked the majority of the North Korean army here into 38th parallel west. And then on the non-combat, I basically started building up my forces here in Pyongyang to get them ready to move to the south. Sorry, I know this is probably a little, the handheld is probably a little too much. I'm trying to find the best, I'm having a hard time finding a place to set stuff down right now. And then at the end of the turn, North Korea collected 28 after deploying all of our forces in Pyongyang. China is still doing the same. The China rule is still the same, so China will only have 10 IPC until they go to war. So with 10 IPC, all I did with China was I purchased a fighter, consolidated my armies here and here, and then collected my 10 IPC. All right, down to the south, down to the Allies. So for the, I'll still do them like in the turn order, but note that all this is kind of being done simultaneously. South Korea with 30. They bought 2 mechs, 2 tanks, 4 supplies, and saved 6. Right, 8, 20, 24. Yeah, so they saved 6. So 1 second. And so they saved 6. They didn't launch any combat. And then they moved there. And then they moved forward. Well, here. I'll just go through the purchase and I'll say what all the allies did. Okay, then the U.S. had 50. They bought 2 infantry, 2 destroyers, and 3 transports. The UN with 20 bought 2 fighters. No one conducted combat. Everyone conducted non-combat. The South Koreans pushed most of their forces here into Seoul. The U.S. consolidated the 24th Infantry Division as well in Seoul, while Allied forces continued to move. They moved out of Pusan to the north. I know I started this video before I got a full answer. I'm not sure what Airsoft Commando wanted to do with these 5 supplies. As always, mechs can carry up to 5 supplies. So for right now, I'm just going to say that his mech is carrying the supplies north. And then if he tells me otherwise, then I will I'll roll that back. Other than that, that was all the moves for the Allies. So then at the end of the turn, South Korea collected 30 plus the 6 that they saved. So they will have 36 for next turn, which, stupid thing. 35, 36. Put that back. The U.S. spent all 50. They collect 50. And then the UN spent all 20 and will collect 20. So that is it for turn 1 of Operation Chromite. No one went up as far as territorial gains yet because, again, the parallel territories are considered neutral territories. So those do not factor into the final numbers here. And yes, so now we will push that over to turn 2. And so that is it for turn 1, and we'll see you guys next time for turn 2. So until then, guys, as always, take care.